Hello, my friends, and welcome to this month's edition of the Game Show Canada, where this month we'll be looking at a short-lived game show called Love Me, Love Me Not. But before we get into that, I need to explain something and actually pass along some very sad news. The video you're about to see was recorded sometime in advance, and in between then and now, the Power family unfortunately lost our beloved dog, Skye, who was adopted back in 2005 from the SPCA and passed away just recently at the age of 17. Skye was a beloved member of the family for a very long time, and we are so grateful to the SPCA for bringing her to us. So with that in mind, I would pledge to donate in Skye's memory 10 cents per view of this video during its first week online, and up to a max of $50. And also, this will serve as a tribute to anyone who has lost a pet, because only a true pet owner can understand how difficult this is. Because when you have a pet for as long as we have, they start to feel like your children. So, also, if you don't mind, I ask that you please watch this short tribute to Skye. And I would like to also thank my old friend Matt V. Hornell for providing the music for this video. So, and please donate to your local SPCA or even to the Grand Falls Windsor SPA. This is their Facebook address, and the very capable people there can tell you where you can make your donations. And if you don't live in Newfoundland, you can find a wonderful pet like Skye at a shelter near you. Thank you.
Radiant tears roll from your face. You were at my side, now gone with no trace. Take these drifting parts, let each one be free. Someday, some light, may they return to see. We fall into position, forces above and below, and the wheel always spinning. When you're here and when you go,
come over and get a mutual strike. Welcome to February, so Canada. And, of course, that bullshit excuse of a holiday, Valentine's Day, is about to happen. Now, I think I made my opinions very clear last year about Valentine's Day.
Companies, the florists, the chocolate makers, the stuffed animal companies to sell you a bunch of overpriced shit that you don't need.
An idea. Instead of giving that money to the card makers, the flower people, and the chocolate makers, let's make a donation to the Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation or the American Heart Foundation or Stroke Foundation. Links are right here below. At least this way, the money goes to the cause that really deserves it, instead of those greedy schmucks. But anyway, on with the show, since I still had to do a romantic show for this month. And let's talk about a love trivia show. Love Me, Love Me Not.
Love Me Not's roots began in Italy with the Italian game show Mamma No Mamma, or in English, Love Me Not, which was a huge hit there. So it was only natural for foreign producers to take notice and try to see if an adaptation could work for their respective countries. In 1984, prolific television producer Marty Power and his production company would adapt the show for the United States and produce 2 pilots for ABC. The show was ultimately rejected, and with good reason. Both pilots were absolutely cringeworthy. Alex Trebek, who was between jobs at the time and needed the money thanks to the fallout from Pitfall in Canada, was roped into hosting the show. And he may be the best part of the show, because as usual, he does an excellent job. The game works as follows. 2 contestants of the same sex play with a panel of 4 members of the opposite sex. To begin the game, one contestant chooses one of 8 petals from a daisy. Written on each petal is either Love Me Not, and a dollar amount of either $100 or $150. Whichever amount is chosen is added to the bank. If Love Me is chosen, that contestant goes first. If Love Me Not is chosen, their opponent goes first. In turn, each contestant chooses a panelist, who then picks a petal from a daisy in front of them and reads a statement pertaining to love, romance, or sex, and offers their thoughts and opinions on the matter, often accompanied with a little flirting.
And lengthen marriages. Well, I don't really know how love letters affect marriages, but I know I love getting love letters, and I have a real weakness for them. And you look like a real warm, romantic guy. I don't think I'd mind getting a love letter from you. Or you could just come whisper in my ear.
Okay. Ugh. It's then up to the contestant to decide whether or not the statement is true or false. If they're right, they capture that panelist, and the money in the bank is doubled. Once all 4 panelists have been called on, the round ends. In round 2, when a contestant is wrong the first time, there are no problems. But a second wrong answer means the panelist is automatically captured by their opponent. The first contestant to capture 3 panelists wins the game. The losing contestant and the panelist who was not captured by the winner are off the show. The winning contestant then chooses one of the 3 panelists they captured. The 2 of them will split the money in the bank and will work together in the bonus round. The 2 rejected panelists appear as contestants on a future show. To help the contestant make this decision, they get to ask the panelist one question.
Plus what you found out about them during the game, you get to choose the one you want. Go ahead.
If we were on our first date together, what would be the one quality you would be looking for in me before deciding to go out with me again?
First date time. Corinne, we're going to hear from you.
I think sensitivity and communication. I think communication is very important in a relationship.
Well, you've got some people who agree with you in the audience. That's good, Corinne. Thank you. Ma'am?
Well, mine is partly communication, but it's really humor, because that's the best kind of communication there is, and if you can laugh together, you can love together.
Sensitivity. Humor.
Well, Danny, I agree with what the two other girls said, but the other quality that I really admire is intelligence. And I admire a man that can maybe teach me a few things that I don't know.
In the bonus game, the winning contestant and panelist race around a giant daisy. The contestant starts at the top, while the panelist starts 5 petals away. Alex reads off a series of statements pertaining to love, and the contestant must answer true or false. The panelist is allowed to help, but Alex will only accept the contestant's answer. Every time the contestant's right, he or she moves forward 1 petal. If they're wrong, the panelist runs away from them 1 petal. Every correct answer is worth $1,000 that the two will split, and if the contestant can catch the panelist within 50 seconds, then they both qualify for a bonus question. Alex will read 1 more question with 2 answers. If the two can confer and give both answers, then they each win a brand new car. And this is just way too easy a bonus game to win for such a huge prize. ABC or the production company would have gone bankrupt, as it would have easily given away $30,000 every show. So ABC was wise to pass. Despite how horrible the Mama No Mama pilot was, producers didn't give up and produced another pilot later that year. This time the budget was scaled back considerably, and they had a new host because Alex was unable to return. And I think we all know why.
And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all of us, welcome to America's favorite answer and question game, Jeopardy.
The new host of Love Me Not is Ross Schaefer, who is a comedian and is best known in the game show community for hosting the 1990 revival of Match Game, being brought on as a late replacement for the ill Bert Convey. Ross really tries to make this work, and he does an alright job. Ross is not a terrible host by any means, and it's really not fair that a lot of people blamed him for Match Game 1990's failure. It wasn't his fault, and considering how little notice he had before the show went into production, I thought he did alright. He's no Gene Rayburn, but he's very capable. Not much changed to the actual format. It was just less money, and now the panelists were awarded cash in the main game as well. And it was really kind of similar to what happened in the series, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. The big difference is in the bonus round. Oddly, the panelists played for cash, while the contestant played for the new car. But again, this was passed on. So production moved to Vancouver, Canada, and now we somehow got a series picked up by the USA Network.
Welcome to the game of love, the game that makes the world go round. Love me not, in which these 3 handsome young men, Scott, Pat, and Brad, using all their masculine charm, are determined to avoid being captured by 2 eager rivals, Eva and Laura, who are just as determined to capture them all. Now meet the star of Love Me Not, your host, Ross Schaefer.
For the series, Ross Schaefer stayed on as host. The panel was reduced to 3, and Ross was given a co-host / on-screen announcer in Jane McDougall. possibly to comply with CanCon. She was later replaced with Marilyn Smith. Although I found Jane to be the better host, I thought Marilyn had better chemistry with Ross, so it was probably a good decision. The format now works as follows. Pay attention, there will be a test later. 2 contestants play with 3 panelists. To begin, each panelist is given $100. Contestants take turns calling on a panelist who reads a factoid about love, romance, or sex. The contestant then says whether it's true or false. If they're right, they capture that panelist. If they're wrong, the panelist runs away from them and wins an additional $100. In round 1, each panelist must be called on once. Beginning in round 2, contestants can call on whomever they'd like, and each escape is now worth $200. Play continues for a max of 10 statements, or until all 3 panelists have been captured. The contestant with the most captures wins $1,000 and advances to the race around the daisy. Also advancing is the panelist with the most money, who wins whatever amount is in their bank. The 2 losing panelists each get to keep $100 and return on a future show, or until they've played and lost a max of 5 times. Later, the rules were tweaked, with escapes in the second round being reduced to $100, and the game was extended to 12 statements. Ultimately, there were way too many tie scenarios that the show had to be prepared for. Format 1 was if both contestants were tied. When this happened, Marilyn would read a toss-up question that was pretty much kind of like Card Sharks. The first contestant would give their answer, the second would say whether it was higher or lower, the winner moving on. If 2 panelists were tied, but there was not a tie between the contestants, a different game was played. This time the panelists would continue reading questions to the contestant. Every time they fooled them, they won $100. If the contestant got it right, though, he or she won a $100 bonus. This continued going back and forth until the tie was broken, or until all of the questions had been read, at which point Marilyn would offer the panelists the high-low toss-up question. If all 3 panelists were tied, then they would just go right to the high-low toss-up question, except this time the panelists would write their answers, and whoever came the closest would be declared the winner and would receive an additional $100. For the bonus round, the game basically remained the same. The contestant starts at pedal number 1, the pedals are now numbered, and the panelist starts at pedal 6. Ross reads a series of statements, and the contestant answers true or false. This time the panelist does not get to help. Every time they're right, they move forward a pedal. Every time they're wrong, the panelist moves away from them 1 pedal. And they have either 50, 45, or 40 seconds, depending on when during the series you're watching, to catch the panelist. If they do, they win a brand new car. And in early episodes, they also won $700 in cash. If time ran out before the contestant could catch the panelist, then the panelist won $100 for each pedal separating them. But oddly, the panelist would go around the long way, and whatever money they won would be docked from the $700 pot, with the remainder going to the contestant. This is a very odd payout system because, truth be told, the better the contestant does, the less money they win. And the panelists could literally sit there doing absolutely nothing and win. That just doesn't seem fair. Especially considering that if the panelists managed to catch the contestant, then their money was doubled to $1,400 cash. Or later in the run, a trip to Hawaii, which was also coincidentally worth $1,400. Sponsorship issue, I guess. So, the show was pretty horrible, honestly. The budget's alright for a Canadian game show, but the material is bad. Ross really tried to make it work, with his funny anecdotes after some of the more ridiculous statements, and you can get a few laughs out of some of it. But it's not the kind of thing that's going to last long term. So that's why the show only lasted a year. Poor Ross Schaefer never found a good vehicle for himself, and he will always go down as a very underrated host. But I'm sure he's not too disappointed, because now he works as a motivational speaker, and he has his own YouTube channel where he posts a lot of his material, so I suggest checking that out, because he does do great work. So that was Love Me, Love Me Not. On the next edition of the Games of Canada, we'll be looking back at a Beat the Clock club called Anything You Can Do. Hope to see you then. Until next time, on behalf of all of us.
Oh, come on, not again!
Become a Patreon backer at www.patreon.com/GameShowGumbo, or check out our website, www.GameShowGumbo.com. This has been an impressive production.